Welcome back to Empowering Businesses Inc. podcast. I'm here with a really good friend of mine. Her name is Valerie. Valerie, can you take a moment and introduce yourself, please?
Well, thanks for having me, Robyn. I am so grateful to be here. My name is Valerie Dyke. I am a living benefits specialist, and I come from a background of being a massage therapist for, goodness, almost 15 years. So I love to reach out to entrepreneurs, and hopefully some of the information that I'll have to share today will inspire them as well, the way that I hope it would.
Wonderful. What does it actually mean to be what you
Living benefits. Yeah.
Mhm.
So most people, when they think about personal coverage, they think about life insurance, which is very important. But life insurance covers you at time of death, and then that money goes back to your estate, your beneficiaries, to make sure that they're taken care of. What I'm talking about as living benefits, what happens when you still are here? So you've been injured or you're sick, but you're unable to work because of it. We can offer you coverage, affordable coverage, which is great, to cover you for those day-to-day bills. Or if your children get hurt or sick, you might be looking at needing to take time off work as well. So having your children covered also covers your loss of income while you're taking care of them, either in the hospital or at home. So it's the living time of what we're looking at covering, not the end of life time, if that makes more sense.
It does, because let's be honest, life insurance doesn't benefit me and it doesn't help me pay my bills. It
Mm-hmm.
helps my loved ones. When you say accident or injuries, automatically I'm thinking like major injuries or major accidents, but I don't believe that's the case. What does that
No,
include?
yeah, it's I'm inspired every week when I meet with colleagues and we share about some of the claim stories that we have seen come through for our clients. Because an accident or an injury, really, we're looking at something that is preventing you from being able to do your job. So depending on your job, that could be different things. Let's say you're a roofer, for example, and you stub your toe really badly to the point that you cannot put your shoe on and walk up and down a ladder. How do you do your job as a roofer? We've covered for stubbed toes. I just had a client's claim go through who's a mobile massage therapist, and she had an injury done to her toenail from a pedicure go wrong. And then it got very badly infected. She could not put her shoe on. She could not stand. Therefore, she couldn't carry her equipment. She could not stand to do her appointments. So she lost time at work again. We were able to cover for that. But it can go up to things like a car accident where you've received major whiplash or concussion, which again doesn't allow you to do your job. Maybe you slip down your stairs and you badly bruise your back so you can't stand up. So it's these day-to-day things, cutting yourself while preparing your supper, tripping on the ice and breaking your wrist, these day-to-day kind of accidents that happen. But also it could be something serious that you wind up in the hospital for months on end. And again, you can get covered for that time that you're losing, because the expenses don't stop.
No, and
They
especially as a
don't.
business owner, you've got those high expenses still coming. And most business owners, let's be honest, we run our business at the same time.
Yeah, we do. We in a lot of cases, we are the business. So therefore we feel this obligation to be there, whether we're hurt, whether we're sick. And we're not doing ourselves any favor, especially when you're injured. Your body needs that time to heal. I'm saying this as a massage therapist background as well, right? A lot of times the injuries that I would be dealing with for people were things that happened years before that they never allowed themselves to heal from. They just kept going through life because they needed to get that paycheck, right? And then you end up with scar tissue, then you end up with limited range of motion, you end up with chronic pain. So what I believe, the living benefits can provide you with that freedom to choose yourself first and actually give you that time to heal and then be better for it going forward.
So with living benefits, I'm assuming that they look at your past histories and that you're a klutz, or do they kind of do they waive that a little bit, or is it really expensive if you are a klutz like myself and have a hard time walking up the stairs?
So no, for accidents, they certainly do not go back to your medical records to see how many times you've tripped over your dog, which I have done many times.
Don't we all?
Yeah. So what's great about our accident coverage is that it is available to everyone. So it does not matter what you do for work. It does not matter what your hobbies are, how dangerous any of them are. We will still cover you. We are not going to charge you any extra because you participate in a higher level of risk through work or through activities, which is great. And it's the same rate no matter what age you are, which is also really great about our accident coverage. If you had a pre-existing injury, so let's say when you started the coverage, you had just broken your leg, that's going to go on your record as a pre-existing injury. And that's just a rider for the first 2 years. So if you've just broken your leg, we're not going to cover anything related to that for the first 2 years, but any other injury would be covered. And after 2 years, if you had a re-injury to that leg, you're still covered. So it doesn't exclude you from it on the accident end. It just might be a rider for 2 years if you're coming into it already dealing with an injury, if that makes sense. For the medical part of it, it's a little bit different where there is the disclosure part of it. So have you had any sickness issues? There are some that don't make you insurable, unfortunately. But there's a lot where, again, we can just apply that 2-year rider where it's just the 2 years for that specific illness that you can't claim, but then you can after the 2 years. The other great thing about our company is that after 5 years for heart attack, cancer, and stroke, which are big ones that we need to worry about these days, if you've gone 5 years, no treatment, so no medical intervention through medicine, surgeries, treatments, that type of thing, we will still fully insure you again whether you have another heart attack or you're diagnosed with cancer again, which a lot of insurance companies won't even touch you for about 15 or 20 years.
Yeah.
So that just allows people to get back into the insurance game a lot faster. But again, those are conversations that we have with people individually because everyone's circumstance is a little bit different. But if you don't qualify for sickness, you absolutely still can get the accident. So again, the accident is available to everyone. And let's face it, we all end up with some kind of accident along the period of our life, break something, need stitches, fall down and sprain something, whether it's our ankle or our back. It just happens. Accidents are a part of life, unfortunately.
Especially living in Alberta, because sidewalks are icy, everything becomes ice or windy, and you get something in your eye. Like it's
Yeah.
wow. And I haven't actually ever heard about insurance where you just have that 2-year waiting period. I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah. And that's again just for that specific issue. So again, going back to the broken leg, let's say you had just broken your leg. So you're not covered for that. But if you happen to fall and break your wrist within the first, couple days of getting your policy active, you're covered. It's also jet approved. So it goes into effect the moment you sign your paperwork, which I love too, because a lot of times people don't even know that this coverage is an option. So we can set them up just before they're going, to do a big motocross event or drive across the country because they're a truck driver. And if anything happens, they're covered immediately, which again, a lot of companies make you wait, sometimes a year before you can even make a claim, where it's effective immediately.
That is amazing. So in my personal circumstance, we all know that Parker, my son, has gone to play junior A hockey, which
Mm-hmm.
is classified an extreme sport. It
Mm-hmm.
is. He's a 15-year-old boy, so I'm not overly concerned. But would he be able to qualify on something like this? Or is he, because he's an extreme sportsman, would he not qualify?
No, he absolutely would qualify. And the great thing about our policies too is that once they're set up, you're covered wherever you travel in Canada or in the US. And for a lot of, I don't know if you call that semi-pro or junior pro sports, they travel a lot, right? They drive to and from different events that they're competing at or maybe training. Lots of times they're living away from home, so in a different province or even a different state, right, from where parents are, they're still covered there, even though they're not in Canada anymore. They're still covered if they're playing in the States or again traveling across Canada to different provinces. They are also paid on top of anything that the hockey organization itself might have in place. And from my experience, even though there is some coverage available with the hockey associations, they're hard to deal with. They take a long time to get sorted. We aim to have everything processed and to you as quickly as possible because we know that you need that money. If your son, again, was in the States playing, an injury happened, most likely you would want to fly and be with him, or you'd want to be able to bring him home, right? It
Right.
provides that immediate cash so that you can make that choice and be there, or bring him home. And then still, if you get paid extra money from the Hockey Association, that's a bonus. But when those critical times of injury happen, it's a good thing to have more coverage coming back to you, right? It's not a problem when there's more money than you need.
Never a problem. That is
No,
not normally what we go for,
no.
right? Because in fairness, Parker would be his injury rate, broken collarbone, broken leg, it would be really high. So that is now some people would assume that the cost of that would be skyrocketing. So based on like just an average 15-year-old healthy child, what would you think the premiums would roughly be? Like, am I looking at $50 a month, or am I looking at $1 million a year kind of thing?
Yeah, I wish it was $1 million a year. I'd like the commission on that for sure, but probably not as many people would be available to get it. What I love so much is how attainable our coverage is. It truly is a budget for everyone. We can customize depending on what your needs are. So a basic a basic accident plan starts at about $14 a month. And that again is regardless of age, whether you're 65 years old or whether you're 16, it still starts at about $14 a month. Now, if you wanted to look at more inclusive family package, which would cover up to 2 parents and then any children 17 years of age or younger at the start of it, that starts at $34 a month. So that's exceptionally affordable for families, especially
Mhm.
as you get more into the high risk activities, because guaranteed something's going to happen. We get tons of hockey claims. We get tons of motocross claims. We get tons of volleyball claims. It just happens, right? There's just so many ways for kids to injure themselves. I tell people, if you've got kids, you want to get the family plan because your kids will pay for your policy.
Absolutely. I'm really shocked at how cheap and affordable it really is for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's be honest, children are accident prone. They're going to
Mm-hmm.
get injured, they're going to get hurt.
Well,
Never
and let's be
mind
honest,
a
it's not
parent.
just children. I was going to say, right? We all have those moments going, whew, I'm so lucky I didn't break something, right? It just happens. I've had a ton of claims just even within our office the last little while of people just tripping over the stump of a tree or tripping over that last step, and they've sprained something, or they've broken a tooth because they were carrying a pen in their mouth and needed to get dental surgery to fix their tooth. So these are just normal activities we do day to day. They're not even extreme sports. We're just tripping and hurting ourselves.
I wish I would have actually known you, I don't know, probably 5, 6 years ago. I was camping at a hockey camp, went outside, noticed that my garbage blew over in the morning. So picking up the garbage in my flip-flops, and I tripped and fell in the rain and broke my foot in over 100 places. I spent
Oh
nine
my
months in
goodness.
a cast. As a business owner, I figured out a way to keep my foot elevated while I sat at my desk and just pushed through it.
Mm-hmm.
So if I would have had this type of insurance, I would have been able to financially stay at home, or had been able to hire somebody
Mm-hmm.
to potentially not fully replace me, but so I wasn't going to have to spend 10 hours a day with my leg up doing call.
Yeah. But again, that's the situation I talked to at the beginning, is we tend to put so much pressure on ourselves to just get back to work that we don't allow ourselves that time to properly heal. And it sounds like you did the best you could to balance it, but you might still have some issues from that break. Again, just from not being able to take that time. Again, I'm entering my 15th year for massage therapy. I do it very, very part-time now. But when I was full-time, I was fully dependent on that paycheck. And I had no idea that this kind of coverage was an option. Everything that I had looked at was so out of reach financially that I just never got personal coverage because I just couldn't justify the amount of money to spend on it, which meant over my lifetime as a therapist, I worked with stitches in my hand. I worked with a dislocated shoulder. I worked with my back in spasms so badly that I couldn't stand up straight. And I know how important healing is for our body, but I couldn't not get paid. And therefore, put a glove on over the stitches, go and try not to reopen them while you're working on people, right? try to use the other arm instead of the dislocated arm, but it took so much longer to heal and just didn't heal as well as it should have. And that's why I'm so passionate about at least letting people know this is an affordable option you should take a look at, just to see if there are any missing pieces that you might have in your existing coverage. Or if you don't have any coverage, let's build something. Again, for highly active people and families with those high active kids, the premiums will be paid for one claim will pay for about a family one for about 2 years, an individual one for about 6 years. So one claim pays your premiums. It's so worth having.
I'm floored by this. If you had to give anybody advice other than to give you a call, what other advice would you give them about the living benefits insurance that you have?
You know, the biggest problem that I see out there is that people don't even know what their current coverage actually covers them for. So when I meet with a lot of people and they say, oh, I've got coverage through work, what I try to do is say, okay, let's take a look at what that actually is. Because a lot of times people just think, I've got the coverage, everything's fine. But how many of us really read those contracts before we sign them, right? Let's be honest. So we look at a lot of company-based plans where you might have some coverage for some disability if you get hurt. But to keep the premiums low, they choose a waiting period of 30 to 90 days before they'll even start considering your claim, which means you don't get anything for that first 30 to 90 days. Nothing. It's only if you're still injured or sick beyond that they will start processing a claim. For us, we start day one. So we can fill in those gaps just in that way. Or maybe it covers the initial employed person, but the spouse isn't covered or the kids aren't covered. Again, there's a gap where you think you've got that family coverage, that protection, and you don't. Maybe they'll only reimburse you for expenses. So if you break a leg, okay, well, we'll cover you if you need to purchase crutches or if you need to purchase an air cast, but who's covering that lost time from work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So without really knowing what you actually have in place, you don't know what you're missing. And we specialize in custom building or filling in the gaps for existing coverage, which I think a lot of people just think you've got coverage, everything's covered without actually knowing what might be missing.
That's wonderful advice. Now, if somebody wanted to get in contact you, what would be the best way for them to contact you other than clicking the link in your bio below?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, Valerie Dyke, Dyke. I also am on Facebook. You can find my business page there, Valerie Dyke, Living Benefits Specialist. You can also, again, click on the Calendly link. Hopefully that will go into the comments as well. So Calendly books in a Zoom meeting. So if you wanted to just book in a free consult, you can choose 30 minutes or an hour, depending on how much you would like to discuss. And it's free. There's no obligation for anything. It's really just sharing information to see if there's something else that might benefit you and your family.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on to our show today and letting everybody know about these wonderful benefits / insurance that everybody should have.
Yes. Thank you so much again for having me, Robyn. I appreciate it so much. Just another way to share, to help people know that there's options.
Thank you.